Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, back working again on these cane mills that I'm working on restoring. I got a Golden's number 1 and a Golden's number 2 that we're working on rebuilding. Previously, we took the small rollers out of both of those mills and we were able to get the journals machined, freshened up, nice polished journals. Had to turn them down a little bit each one. Didn't have to remove a whole lot of material. The large rollers out of those same two mills, though, we got a little bit more issue, particularly with one of them. Both of them have got a fair amount of pitting on the shafts that we need to turn down. Now, you know, the one out of the smaller mill, the number 1 mill, I could probably clean it up without doing any kind of welding or anything, but there's enough in there. I think I'm going to weld up some of those and then turn them back down. It'll just get a little bit of material in there. The rollers are cast iron. The shafts are steel that go through these, so these are weldable, and I have done that before. You can basically just build it up and then turn it back down and have a really nice surface to work with and not have to remove too much metal. Now, the one off this number 2 mill, there is a significant amount of pitting on this one of them here on this bottom end. There's a little bit up in the top. The top, again, we could probably turn out, but as long as we're welding them up, I'm probably going to weld up a couple of areas up here as well. Let me zoom you in here and kind of show you what we're dealing with, and we'll get started on trying to get these journals all fixed up and ready for some new Babbitt bearings. So this one right here is by far the worst one. And you can see, I mean, goodness gracious, that's close to a 1/4 inch deep, that pitting in there, where some water just got on this shaft and probably set down in that bearing cup in the bottom of the mill. And over years and years and years, the rust did its magic and did a lot of damage. The good news is that we've still got plenty of good material in here. When they sandblasted it out, they pretty much got all the rust out. And yeah, because this is steel, we can weld it up and we can fix this. I've done it many times before. So my game plan is I'm going to come in here with a grinder and just kind of grind out these areas that need to be welded up. I just like to get to some good fresh material, make sure I've got all the rust out of there. We'll weld it up a little bit larger than what it needs to be, and then we can go to the lathe and turn it down to its final size. This one here, not bad. There's a little bit of pitting in here. Honestly, I could probably get by without doing anything to it, but at least down here in the bottom, I think I might weld it up just a little bit. And up on the tops of the shafts, you guys can't see it again. I could probably deal with both of those. There's a couple places where there's some pitting that I'll probably just go ahead and weld up, and so I don't have to take too much material off of those. Let's get these over here and start doing some grinding and get them welded up. I think I got this set up to do some welding over here. Notice I got it up on some rollers. This is going to allow me to just kind of roll this around while I'm welding. I've also got most of that old stuff ground out. I'm down to base material all the way through this thing, so I should get a good weld. So now I just need to get dressed for welding and get set up for welding over here, and we'll start seeing if we can put some beads in there. I think we're ready to weld this. So again, I've got this drum on rollers where I can kind of roll it around and weld it up. I got one area here that's really low, but I'm going to pretty much build up this whole surface. We're just going to use the MIG welder. I've got a Lincoln Electric Power MIG 210 MP back here, a little wire feed welder, and that's what we're going to be using to weld this up. Note that I've got a piece of copper here just kind of strapped over the back. That's my ground. As I turn this, it just kind of rotates on there. No big deal at all there. So I think between everything, this hopefully should go smooth. So we'll get in here and build this up. Let me get my welding hood on and we'll start welding. I'm just trying to get a feel for how we're going to be doing this. I can control the drum with one hand here, and I can kind of direct my wand here with the other. I think we're ready to go. I'm trying to kind of build up the lowest areas first, and I'm just going to basically go from the back and work my way all the way down and just put a whole new layer over this whole thing. A little area in here needs to be built up. I'm just going to start back here in the back. I'm just going to make a big spiral and just kind of work my way to the front. All right, guys, I think we are done. We've got that whole thing welded up. We're gonna let this cool down nice and slow now, and that should be able to turn that out and get a good shaft down there. I need to do the other side over here. I think I'm gonna let this cool down a little bit first. There is a little bit of pitting on this side I wanna take care of as well. Not near as bad as this side though. That was by far the worst side. Just taking a closer look at it. You know, guys, I'm a machinist, not a welder. I can weld things together. I can make things stick, but my welds aren't the prettiest in the world, and I'm not gonna sit here and tell you they are. But the beautiful thing about this job is we're gonna machine all that off. All we're trying to do is add material back to this part and get it all turned off smooth, so it's not gonna matter at the end of the day. And as long as I don't have any voids or any pockets in that weld, we should be good. So I think it's gonna be fine. If we have to, we can always go back after we turn it down a little bit. If there's some voids in there, we can weld those up and then finish this thing out. I've got the part turned around now. There's a bearing that goes from about here to here, and there is some pitting in here. It's not terrible. I probably could turn it out, but I'm gonna go ahead and build it up. And I'm not gonna build up the whole shaft. I'm just gonna build up from about down here to about here. I did kind of go in there and grind that area out. And just make sure I've got plenty of metal there, and we end up with a nice machine surface when we're through. So we're gonna go ahead and do this process here. We got this welded up as well. Again, very little needed to be on there, but that should have you more than enough to get this side trued up. We're just going to set this roller over there. I'm probably going to wrap it up in a blanket and let it cool down nice and slow, and we'll be ready to machine it once it gets cooled down, probably tomorrow. We got all of our bosses welded up here. We're ready to go to the lathe now. Before I do, I want to go in here and clean up these centers on the shaft so that we can properly set these up on the lathe. So again, just got a center drill here like you would use on the lathe. Same thing that drilled these originally. We're just going to clean these up. They're full of rust, gunk, grease, you name it. And I just want to freshen them up here a little bit with the hand drill. And that's all that one needs. See all the gunk coming out. Turn these around, do the other side. There we go. Those look good. Let's get these set up over in the lathe. I think we will chuck them up with the small end out first, get that trued up, and then we'll flip it around and get this side trued up. And we just want to get a good bearing surface is what we're going for over here on the lathe. I got this set up over here in the lathe. Again, we're just chucked up onto the main shaft up here that has not been welded on. It is a little bit rough and rusty, but it's going to be fine. This wheel is anything but a precision running device. These cane mills run extremely slow RPMs. Think about a mule walking around in a circle. How many times it can walk around a circle in 1 minute? You know, you're probably only talking 5 or 6 RPM. So, you know, and you just got rollers going against this. It's just crushing cane in between it. So keep that in mind. And I will just go ahead, you know, you turn this thing on. It's interesting, the top part of this drum is running fairly true. The bottom end down there has got a fair amount of run out in it. I'm not too worried about that. Again, that the speeds that this thing is running and the way it's being used, it's just really not gonna matter. And this is a casting that has been pressed up onto these shafts. Most of these drums like this that I turn are not running perfectly true. I've never really been that concerned about it. So, but what we do want to do is get these shafts cleaned up and running, you know, where we have good bearing surface. All this weld that we put on here, or almost all this weld, is going to be turned off. We were just basically building up a little bit of material to fill in some of the little gaps in there. So let's go ahead and get the cutter over here and we'll start turning this thing out. Ready to start turning this. I'm just going to try to come in here and kind of find the high spots. All right, and we'll start turning. This is just going to be roughing right now until we get a fairly consistent cut around it. Just removing that rough weld. Like I said, this is going to be really rough turning until we kind of get the high spots knocked down and start making a fairly constant cut around there. Because it's an interrupted cut, I'm only taking about 60 thousandths per pass right now. 60 thousandths off the diameter, so really a 30 thousandths cut. Once we get kind of below this, the high spots, we can probably start taking a little bit more metal off, but this is a rather rough cut right now. Let's take a quick look at it. I know we're getting lots of chatter on that right now. But again, I'm just trying to get this rough turned, and it's slowly cutting through. We'll continue on. All right, guys, we are down here to the very end. I'm just going to take a real light cleanup pass on this. And this should be the last pass. It appears to have cleaned up pretty darn nice. We've got all the weld marks out. We really have not had a big shatter problem here toward the end, which is good. We're going to turn this out, and I'm going to get some emery cloth and polish that journal. I think we'll be about ready. I do need to chamfer the bottom of that just to clean up that rough edge on it. We'll do that first and then polish it. Let's see, just about the end of our cut here. I'm going to back my cutter out so I don't drag back across it. Let's just look and see what we got. And I'm happy with that. That looks good. You can kind of see there's just a couple little spots in there. I'm not going to worry about trying to turn it out. It'll be below the bearing surface, but that's going to be just fine. Let me get a chamfering bit in here. That's good. We'll take some emery and polish it out. And I'm happy with the results. We will let that go. I made just a one little edge right there. I'm gonna reach in there with the cutter and just face that off, I think, if I can get in there with it. So I'm gonna use a different cutter that I can reach in there a little bit better with, hopefully. Kind of face out that. That looks good. All right, this side is done. We will flip it around. I'll chuck up on this end we just turned, and we'll get the shaft on the other side turned out as well. We've got this flipped around now. The side that we just turned is in the chuck, and I have some brass shims in here just to kind of protect it so we're not gouging it out. And we're gonna go ahead and get this side turned down. I did switch to a little bit different cutter. I'm gonna see how this one works. The other one was working fine, but just playing around more than anything else. So we'll go ahead, start rough turning that again, and all I want to do is just get this cleaned up to the point where we don't have any little holidays in there. Got good metal all the way around, and basically just get it down as close to this original diameter as we can. May have to go a little bit deeper. All right, let's do it. I can already tell that's kind of the high spot right there. All right, we are working this thing down. I'm taking about 60 thousandths per pass, and this pass here, probably not going to totally clean it up, but we're getting down close to the original rough diameter there. We probably got another couple of passes still left to go here, maybe not at the full 60 thousandths, but we are getting closer here. I'm going to take a look at it after this pass and just see how things are cleaning up, but I think we're getting down pretty close. Yeah, we're getting real close here. I'm going to go ahead, we're going to turn this whole shaft down a little bit and try to get that last little bit out there. All right, that last pass looks like it cleaned it up pretty good. We're going to get in here with some emery now and just do a little polishing on this shaft, get that bearing surface all ready. So we're just going to try to get this real nice and smooth for a Babbitt bearing to be poured on. Because that gear fits down here on the top of this, I decided not to turn it down anymore down there, just because I don't want to change the diameter of that area that fits up around the gear. But this shaft is a little bit, probably about 20 thousandths undersized from what it was originally, but that's just what it took to get it to all clean up real nice. And because we're pouring a Babbitt bearing on this, the size really isn't critical, because we're going to pour the Babbitt to fit the shaft. You know, it just kind of is whatever it is. It's not like we got to get it to an exact size for a ball bearing or something like that to fit up on. So this should be just fine. So we'll get this polished out and we'll have this roller done. We'll need to do the second roller for the smaller mill, and probably just do that off camera. It's going to be the exact same process. that we just did here. I'm gonna polish that a little bit more. There was a little bit of chatter in there when we were turning that, but we'll polish that out. There we go, all turned, polished, ready for Babbitt bearings. So we got the 2 big rollers done, plus the small rollers were done in a previous episode. So these are all ready for Babbitt pouring. So hopefully, coming up here real quick, we'll get the Babbitt done on these and be able to get those cane mills put back together and ready to squeeze some cane juice for this fall's cane season. And that's the game plan. So there you go. Guys, that is going to be a wrap. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments greatly appreciated. Big, huge thank you out there to all the supporters of the site who support the site through Patreon and other means. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted. And with that, guys, we are going to sign off. As always, again, thanks for watching.